Don't look now, but it's only a week more till Memorial Day holiday weekend, and the baseball season is one quarter in the books. All tonight on the Baseball Talk Radio Show.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. I'm Gary Mack, and I'm joined by the great Rich Baxter. Rich, how the heck are you?
Very good. I'm trying to live up to that great title. Thank you very much, Gary Mack. How are you this week?
I am fine. Coming off a visit to the ballpark, a rainy ballpark last night, but I had to go. Had to get my Star Wars bobblehead. It's Mr.
Wow.
Smith as Han.
Very nice. Very nice.
With Chewbacca.
What a nice collector's item there. And I did see your tweets and your Facebook post. You stood out in line there like a trooper there for that, a stormtrooper, might I add.
Yeah.
Very nice time there at the ballpark.
Yeah, had a great time, and always fun to go to the ballpark. And wish the weather was nice, but it's not just in New York, Rich. The bad weather. I mean, we've been having rain all over the baseball world, and when's it ever going to end?
Yeah, the Middle Atlantic has been saturated with rain in the past week. Plenty of rainouts. In fact, I think the rain actually followed the Phillies around. They went to Baltimore. It rained cats and dogs down there one night. They went out to St. Louis. It rained a couple days, although they got all 4 games in out there in St. Louis, but the rain followed them out there. And as you said, Gary, it's just been today's been the first clear day in about 5 days that I can remember in the area where I live in New Jersey here. But yeah, it's been a soppy May following our cold April.
Yeah, it certainly has. And boy, it has not been good conditions for baseball, and a lot of rainouts. I think the Yankees played a half a game last week.
Yes.
The played a half game with the Nationals. The game was suspended, and then they were off a couple of days, and they put in a lot of off days, Rich. But wow, I mean, it's just crazy.
Yes, they did. And imagine seeing these two guys if you're tuning into our YouTube live show here as we're taping the show here on May 20th, 2018. Imagine walking through Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C. and bumping into these guys because they had to spend the night in Dulles Airport this past week, Wednesday night. They were rained out in Washington, D.C. as all the storms moved up from the Midwest and straight across. And yeah, the Yankees, I think, were off like 3 or 4 days in a row there with the rain.
Yeah, and knowing the Yankees, they probably had the uniforms on too, so everybody would notice them. But,
probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, could you?
A little late, but better late than never. But yeah, it's just been a mess all over the place, and I know the Nationals they're gonna have a boatload of games to make up. The Mets have a few. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible to me that a baseball team had to spend the night in an airport. They had a mechanical issue with the plane in combination with storms in the D.C. area, but all the local good hotels were sold out as well. So a lot of the players spent the night on the plane, or either a few. I was under the impression in the press there, they had some reports of a few spending the night in the terminal itself. So just hard to believe that a caliber of players like the Yankees actually had to spend the night in the terminal. But you don't hear about those stories too much in Major League Baseball, but certainly they happen every day.
Yeah, without a doubt, they get stuck and have to wait out the weather, or fly through bad weather, and get the white knuckles in the on the airplane. But I don't think I would want to sleep in the plane and stay there the whole night. It was just that, well, I'm a little claustrophobic anyway, so I'd probably get a little claustrophobic staying on the plane all night. But the terminal I could see, but
Yeah.
I think I would have rented a car and drove like 10, 15, 20 miles to a hotel.
Yeah, that sounds about right. You could always find a place somewhere, I would imagine.
Yeah, so, I guess they wanted to I don't know. Maybe they went to the, airplane bar and the airport bar and, I'm not just gonna leave it there.
Okay, well, we're almost, in fact, we are one quarter over with the season of baseball so far, and that is a big number. It struck me real hard over the week. I heard some of the announcers saying, "Wow, we're a quarter past the season already," and it's amazing that we're almost into Memorial Day weekend now. Here with just one weekend to go, till we have the Memorial Day holiday, and that also signals the Baseball Hall of Fame having their classic game. It's going to be held on May 26th here. Did a little research before the show tonight here. The Hall of Fame Classic, May 26th in Cooperstown. 7 Hall of Famers and retired players representing all 30 teams in town for a 7 innings Legends game at the Doubleday Field. So that's probably a nice event to take in. The seats are very reasonable as well, Gary. Only $12.50 from first to third, and $11 for general admission outfield seats. So if you're any distance from the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, you want to take in a great game, check it out there. I think they still have tickets available for the Hall of Fame Classic. So check it out. And while I'm saying that, Gary, I just wanted to show our viewers this wonderful bat. Don't believe I ever did show this on the air before, but if you can see here, it's a custom-made bat that Mr. Gary Mack had made for me at Cooperstown just last year on a trip that he made for the baseballtalkradio.com website and Baseball Talk Radio. So thank you again, Gary Mack, for that nice bat that you got me from Cooperstown.
Very nice. You're very welcome. And yeah, it was the nice people at Cooperstown Bat Company, and they do a great job. So if you're looking for some sort of personalized bat, and by the way, I mean they make bats to use, but they also make these great personalized bats, and they do. It's all made there, and they've got quite an operation, and they're very nice people. So if you're in that area, it's just across the street and down a couple of blocks from the Hall of Fame, and they're right there.
Very cool. So check it out. Again, the Baseball Hall of Fame Classic being held the weekend of Memorial Day weekend. I believe it's May 26th is the game. So check it out. Go up to the internet, Baseball Hall of Fame. You can just Google it. You go right there and check it out. It's always a great trip. And especially right before the summer and the Hall of Fame inductions, probably a perfect time to get up there. So it's an awesome week. We had took last week off for Mother's Day. So anybody looking for last week's show, we did not do one. We took the holiday off, and we hope everybody had a great Mother's Day weekend there with Mom, and remembering all the mothers out there, and hopefully everybody had a great time.
Yes, and we're back now, and we'll have to see what we're going to do next week with another holiday. Rich, we're getting slammed here all the time. So
yes, we are. Memorial Day coming up on us real fast. The unofficial start to summer, and that's when baseball really starts to heat up. Gary, I know some of the races are starting to heat up right now. We're going to get to them in just a few minutes. We're going to take a couple more quick news notes here. Last week, the Red Sox stole 5 bases on the Baltimore Orioles down there in Baltimore, and there was a lot of suspicion that some sign stealing was going on by the Red Sox there. 5 bases is an awful lot of bases to be stolen in one game.
Well, but even if they were stealing the signs, Rich, this is something that's going on for years and years. As long as they're not using any kind of extra technology, I mean, if they're just getting the signs from the third base coach or the dugout and they figure out what it is, I don't see anything wrong with that. It's been a part of the game. It's always been a part of the game, and change your signs. You know, it's that simple. Just change your signs.
Well, we'll have to see. Yeah, like we were talking a little bit before the show, at least probably they weren't using technology to steal bases. I know in 2 years ago or so, the Phillies had a bullpen coach that was out with binoculars and he was tuning in on the pitcher and the catcher and getting the signs from the other team. So he was caught red-handed doing that. But yeah, certainly in this day and age with all the electronic devices and things like that that they're using within baseball, you would think that stuff like this doesn't go on. But yeah, teams are going to try to get the edge when they can.
And I don't, uh, at least with stealing the pitchers and stuff, that you need binoculars or something. That's what I think the Phillies were using out in the bullpen. But that's a little different than how can you use an electronic device to steal the third base coach's signals? I mean, if they videotape it and they keep reviewing the tape and they see common things and then steals occurring and then they figure out, break it down. That's always been a part of the game. Billy Martin was excellent at that. He could figure out, what the signs were from the third base coach to the runners and to the batter all the time. And to me, it's part of the game. I don't think it's cheating at all.
Yeah, and even some of the baseball commentators now are very good at predicting the next pitch.
Yeah.
They just tune into any game and you can hear them commenting on what they feel the next pitch will be, certainly inducing the chance that a runner might take off. But, well, before I forget, I want to wave a hand out to Jeff out there, our longtime listener. And Gary told me that you said hello, and I want to wave right back to you, Jeff, and say hello, and hope you enjoyed that Mets game last night, even with the fog rolling in. You guys had a little bit of everything going on. You had some rain, you had some fog, and the Mets came back and won at 5-4. It must have been a wonderful game to see.
It was wonderful, and the only thing we didn't have was snow, thank goodness. But I was fortunate the seats that I had were covered, so we did not get any rain on us or anything like that. And we did see the fog come rolling in, but yeah, it was a great time, and it's always a good time, fun time to go to the ballpark. It's just you wish for nice weather. I said I got to go to a game this year where I'm not freezing. I want to go on 90 degrees sometime and sit right in the middle of the sun and bake. Because the last few years seems every time I go, it's been like freezing. So, though it wasn't as bad last night, it wasn't as cold, but it was still a little uncomfortable.
Yep, I could imagine with that weather, with the fog rolling in, things like that. I was watching a game myself, and they were commenting that that wasn't the first time that Citi Field has taken on fog. They get it quite often. So anyway, Jeff, I just wanted to give him a plug as well. His podcast, Baseball and Barbecue, with a buddy that he does, Baseball and BBQ. If you're looking it up on the internet, you can find that on iTunes. You can also check it out at baseballtalkradio.com. Nice podcast there talking about Gary's and our favorites, barbecued beef and ribs, things like that. Believe it or not, I haven't even broken out my outside grill yet, Gary. So I'm looking forward to getting some things on the barbecue grill myself. So I'll have to tune into an edition of that show.
Yeah, because they give you lots of suggestions, and it's a great show, Rich. There's only one problem with it. I'm always hungry after I listen to it. So, but they do a great job, and it's just a terrific show. And they combine. You know, you would think, how do you combine the two? But they find a way. You know, they get it done, and I think they've got a new episode going up tonight or today, maybe up already, but it'll be this week. If not tonight, it'll be soon. So be on the lookout for that. Baseball and BBQ with Jeff and Len.
That's very cool. So check them out. You can find them on Facebook. You can find them on baseballtalkradio.com, just like you can find our podcast, the Baseball Talk Radio Show. You can check our website out, mlbthisweek.com. If you want to become a patron, which is a sponsor of the show, check out our Patreon site. It's over at patreon.com/baseball talk. That's patreon.com/baseball talk. You can sign up to be a sponsor and a patron of our show. Gary, we're up to 96 subscribers on our YouTube page. I'm going to issue a proclamation to our other listeners. Please get onto our YouTube site and hit the subscribe button. Get us up to 100 before Memorial Day if you can, please.
Come on, folks. 4 more. That's all we need.
That's all. We're stumping for votes here on the Baseball Talk Radio Show, but we appreciate you tuning in each and every week to hear the podcast. And Gary and I love to do the show, and we do it for you. So thanks very much for listening.
And Rich, a big suspension this week. I don't know if you saw that, but lots of hoopla around this. Seattle Mariners star second baseman Robinson Cano was suspended 80 games without pay by Major League Baseball for testing positive for a banned substance. The substance was a diuretic called furosemide, and it violates the MLB Joint Drug Prevention and Treatment Program. Now, when I first saw this, I said, oh, my God, I take that. Why is that banned? But apparently it is banned because it's used as a masking agent for PEDs. So he has been suspended for 80 games, and a bit of a firestorm started on about the middle of the week because a former teammate of him, Mark Teixeira, who does a commentary or is a guest on a radio show every week here in New York, was asked about it, and he said, I'm not surprised. So, and he didn't elaborate on that, but that opened up a whole firestorm of stuff, did he see him do PEDs? Does he know he did PEDs? He refuses to comment further, but he's going to be out the 80 games. But you know what, Rich? I have a problem about one thing about this whole situation, and that is he broke his hand. He was hit by a pitch, went on the disabled list. He's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken, that time is going to count for his suspension. I'm not sure if that's fair or not. I really think that the suspension should start after the DL time in his recovery, because he's going to miss half if he was going to be out 8 weeks, and you say they play 5 to 6 games a week, let's say 5. So that's 40 games. So half the suspension would have been missed anyway, being on a DL. So he's only really getting suspended. Now, I know he's not getting paid, but he's really only getting suspended for 40 games then, roughly. So I don't know what your thoughts about that, but that kind of bothered me.
Yeah, it kind of bothers me as well. If you're suspended, I think it should be on games that you could actually play, obviously. It shouldn't entail a stay on the DL, I don't think, because you can't play if you're on the DL.
Exactly.
You're injured. So that opens up a can of worms. I was just doing some reading. I haven't really followed Cano's career that much because frankly, I haven't been a huge Yankee fan myself, and I haven't really followed them individually. But I was kind of surprised to hear that he was mentioned as a possible Hall of Fame inductee, even.
Uh-huh. Yeah. They talked about it a lot, and they said this is going to hurt his Hall of Fame chances. Productive player. I don't. You know what? I'll be honest with you. I didn't. I'm like you. I never really checked into his stats to see what his numbers were. I knew he was a really good ball player, had good stats. But you hear a lot of stuff here. You know, they said he was a little bit lazy, wouldn't run out everything. But then again, he played all the time, played in 150 plus games every year. So maybe that's where he took those moments to rest. And I don't know. But I was yeah, I heard that too. He was a perennial all star and um did he won the home run title, the home run derby thingy and all of that kind of stuff. So I guess it's how you look at it.
Yeah, I was looking at his baseball reference page just now, and his batting, they call it black ink, and that kind of shows you what kind of a batter a player was. They also have something called gray ink, and it's sort of a prognosticator of how well you did as a batter. And his number is one, and it says minimum Hall of Famer or average Hall of Famer is 27. So with that number there, it doesn't seem like it would qualify him for being a Hall of Famer. I think he's at that point, like you said, that he's been a perennial All Star. He's like a most similar by ages. I'm looking as a Carlos Baerga, David Wright, Scott Rowland, even Miguel Tejada. These players were very good players. Like Michael Young is even very similar to him in batting. Um, Aramis Ramirez, Jeff Kent. These are guys that are on the edge of being long-time ball players, but they weren't necessarily Hall of Fame players. I think Cano falls into that category.
Well, the only thing I think he has power as well, and I think that's one of the things that you have to filter in more than some of the other guys. They really weren't power hitters. He's hit for a number of home runs, but now you have to question that. He's got 305 home runs, so career. So how many of those were tainted? Though? We don't know. So, um, but he'll serve his time and then come back, and eventually they're going to put the Hall of Fame. They're going to put guys that have been on or suspected of being on steroids. They're going to have to get in. Clemens is probably going to get in eventually. Bonds will probably get in eventually, and poor Pete Rose still sits on the outside looking in.
Yeah, and he it just seems like every time he gets closer, he slips back. So yeah, I don't think it bodes well for him anymore. Unfortunately, we'll have to see though. He's been up and down over many years now since he's been retired, and since it's come to light of his gambling on baseball and things like that. Maybe one day. Um, they will put him in. I think it would be a crime not to. And we've talked about this a lot on the program over the years. If you've tuned in to our show for a long time, you know Gary and I's thoughts on this. Well, Gary, our last show we did 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the MLB London series that was just rumored at the time. It wasn't officially announced, but in the meantime and in between time here, it was officially announced, and baseball will be playing over there in London next year, June 29th through the 30th, 2019. The Yankees and the Red Sox queuing off over there in jolly old London.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not exactly apropos of the teams that they picked, but I guess it's two of the biggest names right now, so that's why they went with those two teams.
Yeah, the big names in baseball. ESPN's favorite
Yeah.
twosome, I guess you could call them most of the time. But great news for baseball over there. There's if you're watching the YouTube broadcast, there's a little picture there. Rob Manfred in the sunglasses there touring the stadium where the game will be held over in London, called London Stadium. And it's big news over there. A lot of fans, as you said on our last show, Gary, and before, listen to your podcast for Mets Musings. They have their own groups over there um, in London and around England that are baseball fans. In fact, there was a blogger in Philadelphia just last week. Last weekend, he was welcomed to Philadelphia. The Phillies treated him and his girlfriend like gold. They gave him wristbands that brought him right down behind home plate. They put him on television, and they have a fan club over in England with a restaurant actually that has cheesesteaks and all that follows the Phillies. Every home game that is on, you can check that out right from London. So a lot of news around Europe and London with baseball.
That's some late nights, though. I mean, if they're playing a 7 o'clock game at night, that's a midnight in jolly old England. So
Yeah, it's
that restaurant's got some late crowds going there. Sounds like a hopping place.
you got, you got to be a late nighter to enjoy most of the home games for the Phillies over there. Yeah, certainly some odd times. If you tried to take in the royal wedding the other day live, it was tough for us. 5 a.m. it started, and wow, it was a DVR moment for my wife. She caught it on DVR. But yeah, just the physical distance between us makes it hard for that.
Now, talking about cheesesteaks,
Our favorite subject.
what is your favorite Philadelphia cheesesteak? Is it a Geno's? Is it what's the other one? Pat's?
Pats. You have Geno's. They're the top two. There's one called Campos as well. Um, I when I used to go to the stadium and get a cheesesteak, I would go to Campos. I don't think they're at the stadium anymore. Campos cheesesteaks, and simply I would get a Campos because I like a chicken cheesesteak
Okay.
most of the time. And the Pats and Geno's in Philadelphia do not serve chicken cheesesteaks, oddly enough. So there are a number of other cheesesteak places within Philadelphia that don't have the big names like the Pats and the Geno's, but they're equally as good. But
And they're the two like right across the street from another, right?
yeah, they're in the Italian market section off of 9th Street in Philadelphia, which is it's a wonderful place. In fact, it's always crowded with visitors. Obviously, um, Geno's is your more commercial of the two. They have a lot more tables. They've done some nice improvements over there. I can tell you that over the years. I've never been too much of a guy to run over to either place for a cheesesteak. If I went to the ballpark, like I said, I would have a Campos simply because I preferred the chicken cheesesteak, and the others didn't offer that.
Okay. There you go, folks.
So if you do go to Philly, of course you have to check out those, and of course the Chicky and Pete's crab fries. I know Jeff and Len might be coming down to Philadelphia in June. They'll be checking out the Bulls barbecue area, and they'll probably want to grab some crab fries with some cheese dip.
Oh, you're killing me here now, Rich.
And when different ball teams come into Philadelphia, they'll talk to the announcers about what are a crab fry. ESPN was saying, what are crab fries? They thought it was something with crab meat and French fries. No, it's just a seasoning, Old Bay seasoning that they dump on the crab, on the fries, and they make it taste very good. But they add that cheddar cheese that is melted and nice and warm, and you dip those crab fries in there. And I'm going to tell you, it's almost
Don't have to tell me.
magnifique. Almost French. Magnifique.
The simple pleasures of life.
That's it. A little tub of fries and some cheese dip on the side, and you're good. Maybe a nice beer, as you said you had last night, Gary. That would go very well with that.
Rich, I think you're heading to the ballpark soon.
Yeah. That would be awesome. We've got to take in a game together one day.
Yeah.
Well, before we get to our standings, we'll run through them really quickly on this show. Our 10th show of our season here, 2018. It's moving on pretty fastly, but big surprise. The Supreme Court last week, Gary, came out of nowhere and ruled that sports betting will now be legal across the U.S. for any state that wants to have it.
Yeah, it's the states can decide now if they want to have it. And of course, your state, New Jersey, is one of the ones that really pushed for it. Your Governor Christie, he was a big supporter of this decision, and has pushed it for a number of years now to try to get it in Jersey. Of course, it's always been in Las Vegas, and for some reason they had the only rights to it. But now it's been opened up to everybody. I'm sure New York will get involved with it. I don't know what to think about it. This is it could open up a Pandora's box. It could be perfectly fine. Who knows?
And on the YouTube page, I just cut to a picture of Atlantic City. That's going to help Atlantic City a little bit, I think, in the short term until, like you said, Gary, all of the other states surrounding get the sports betting. Although New Jersey was said to be ready to go, I believe there's only one location that is actually ready to go, and that's a racetrack up in North Jersey. I believe it's Monmouth Park. They've been sitting on this decision, and an English company has been already into Monmouth Park, William Hill Betting out of London, England, and they're all over London, by the way. If you've ever been to London, William Hill is the sports book over there, and they have lounges, bars that you can just walk into right in London and place your bets on just about all the soccer matches and things like that. My opinion is it's long overdue. It's something that's been going on, certainly in the United States, for 100 years or more. There's been people betting on games, mostly illegally. A lot of the illegal guys are probably the ones that are going to stand to lose out because people would probably like to take their action to a legal sports betting parlor, I would think. So we'll have to see how this plays out. As you said, Gary, it might open a Pandora's box. I don't think it will. I think the game's integrity and the way that certain games are played are above that. But you never know. I mean, things can happen. Players can be paid. It does open a realm of suspicion, but I think that suspicion could even carry on to today. I mean, you've got people placing bets outside of Vegas for huge amounts of money, off-site, offshore betting, online gambling. It's been taking place. They've been taking bets online from the United States for years. So it's an idea where now things are going to be taxed. Revenues will come into the state that way, and it's going to be legal. So Supreme Court weighing in there. As you said, there's only a couple places that you can make sports wagers right now. In Delaware, they have what they call teasers and parlays, and they're very crowded. A lot of people drive from the tri-state area just to go there on the weekends for football, place bets, things like that. On parlays, but they do not accept straight bets. Like if you wanted to bet the Mets against the Dodgers or something like that, or for football, certainly the Eagles or something like that. They don't take straight bets, but in the future, I think we will see this very quickly coming to different states, certainly around our area, Gary.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens with it. I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know if it's a real good idea, but I guess it's an idea. This time has come, and uh,
Well, yeah, if you go out to Vegas, I think you sort of broaden your understanding or um, your tolerance towards the betting because you see how big it is out there. There's teams that are relocating to Las Vegas now, football, and they have the hockey team out there now. And I don't think it'll be a long time before you're getting a baseball team out in Las Vegas. I think that's going to be one of the two cities that are added when Major League Baseball expands.
yeah, I think it's gonna be. And speaking of Vegas, in case anybody's interested, the Vegas Golden Knights apparently won today and are going to the Stanley Cup Finals in their first season in the league. Yeah, as you said, they have the hockey team. They're gonna get the football team. The Raiders, the Oakland Raiders, are moving there. So it is an up and coming spot, and before long, I agree there will be a baseball team there. The interesting thing is with the baseballs, whether it falls into that any of that transfer, that um I never can think of the name of that. The location thing, where the other teams have the right, like the
Blackout type of area.
Cubs and yeah, they close enough to the California team. Does it fit? Does it fall into their localities or the Arizona teams and stuff? So that'll be something to see, but I think it's only a matter of time.
Yep. So we'll have to see. Not that I'm a big proponent of gambling. I don't like to see because it's not easy. Number one, a lot of people might think that gambling on sports is easy. If it was, the casinos wouldn't be making money on it, and it's not easy. Let me tell you, it's hard to win gambling on sports. In fact, my wife and I constantly remind each other many years ago when we went to Vegas, and my wife put a small bet of $20 to win on the Phillies. I think she collected like $15 on the bet or something. But it was fun to win, but certainly not easy to win on gambling. I don't recommend it just for a little fun. Maybe if you have some extra money that you want to, risk, then I would say, yeah, that would be fun. Like you were going to dinner or something like that, but certainly not as a way to try to make money.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, and that goes to anything, slots or anything like that. It's you can't make money, but you can have a lot of funny. So
Yes, indeed. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Of course, baseball already has DraftKings and all that jazz following them around. They've embraced that. So initially, they are not embracing the sports books being approved all over the country, but we'll see. Maybe if they get cut in on the action, they're
oh, you have their arms wide open then, and yet Pete Rose is still on the outside looking in.
exactly. Let's go through some of the standings here on the program before we wrap it up here. Gary, why don't you take, if you're ready, the American League East?
All right, we've got the evil empire in a virtual dead heat
Dun, 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 dun.
with the Boston Red Sox, and then you got the Tampa Bay in third with a 500 record, 22-22. Toronto comes up next, 22-25, and then there's the lowly Baltimore Orioles, 14-32. Rich, that just seems incredible. Everybody says it's such a great division, but Only three teams out of the five above 500, one barely at 500, and there's only two teams really above 500. So that's a two-team race. I think that's way it's going to be all year between the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Yeah, they're certainly matched up well there. Yankees playing like a house on fire, 18-7 at home. I believe that's the best record in the major leagues. Philly's close behind them at 16-6 at home, but the Yankees have been on fire, 12-6 on the road. Boston's been hanging tough with them as well. But as you said, it's an also ran for the rest of them. Tampa Bay still at almost 500, but I don't know how long that'll last.
Well, they in relief pitches to start games now, so we'll see. They pitch an inning and then they go to the bullpen. I don't know. I don't get it. But that's the American League East. And you want me to do Central too, Rich?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right. Cleveland's there with a whopping 500 record, 22-22. Cleveland has the lead in the Central. Minnesota is 2 games back at 19-23. Detroit, surprisingly, in the race, 20-25. They're only 2.5 games back, Rich. The White Sox, 13-30, and they're only 8.5 games back. Kansas City brings up the rear at 14-32. They are 9 games back, and they're pretty bad shape right now. But expect a big sell-off probably from them at the All-Star break time. So if you get somebody you like from Kansas City team, maybe your team can pull a trade for them.
That's for sure. They're tied with Baltimore for one of the worst records in the league. In fact, they are tied for them for the worst record in the league. Out west, it's tonight's opponent in ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, one of my favorite games of the week for some reason. They're taking on the Houston Astros, of course, is who I'm mentioning, taking on the Cleveland Indians, the NL Central leader. So we have 2 first place teams going up against one another tonight on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Seattle, interestingly enough, in second place, a game and a half back, Harry.
Yeah, jumped up ahead of the Angels, who were 3.5 back. In Oakland, very surprising, Rich. 3 games over 500 at 25-22. 4 games back. And Texas, which is even more surprising on the flip side, 18-30, 11.5 games back. And I don't know what happened to Texas. They might be in a rebuilding mode, or they're going to go that way pretty quick, but they'll probably move Cole Hamels if this continues.
Yeah, I've seen nothing but terrible pitching from Texas in the last 2 weeks. I've been tuning into some different games on MLB.TV at various times, and Texas's pitching is just absolutely terrible. So that's where they lie. But switching over to the National League East, a little closer to home for us, Gary, it's still the Atlanta Braves. They pulled a Houdini act today. In fact, the Phillies broadcaster had announced that the Braves had already lost today, and a quick John Kruk said that game's still in the ninth. It's not over yet. And sure enough, it wasn't over. The Braves came back and won 10-9. They walked it off with 6 runs in the bottom of the ninth today, so they remain in first place, a game and a half ahead of those Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, and this looks like a division that's going to be a fascinating one to watch the whole year. The Mets are next, 23-19. They're only 3.5 out. They're badly as they played in the beginning of May and the end of April. To be 3.5 games out isn't too bad at all.
Not bad at all. And if you remember when I was on your show, Mets Musings, keep the faith. They've done pretty well in the past 2 weeks, I would think.
Yeah, well, we're happy they won 3 in a row. Swept Arizona, who's in first place, by the way, or in a tie. But yeah, so and then Washington made a little bit of they were putting together a bit of a run, and got to 24-21 they are at, but they've lost 3 in a row now. they went out to LA, and LA really shut them down pretty good. So don't know what the I think they lost today again. So um yeah, very interesting race. Miami playing a little bit better ball, 17 and 29, and
Yeah.
they're 11 and a half games out, but they're going to be there all year.
Though
And
they still can't find many fans to go to the games down there in Miami.
well, I guess there's a lot of stuff to do down there. So
Yes, there is. Over in the Central, it's the Milwaukee ahead of the Chicago Cubs. The Brewers playing some red hot ball. They won a couple against. Let's see here. They are they lost today, but they are 7-3 in their last 10. Chicago Cubs have really pulled it together, Gary. I think if you had to name one team that's really improved as much over the past 10 days, you'd have to mention the Cubs.
yeah, they're a game and a half back, 25 and 19, tied with St. Louis. At they have the same 25 and 19, and also tied for second, a game and a half back is Pittsburgh at 26 and 20. So four teams in that league, in that division, I should say, um, are within a game and a half. And Cincinnati, of course, is bringing up the rear at 16 and 32. But that's going to be some race there, Rich. Four teams, and I could see that going on all season.
Yeah, that's one of the most exciting races, other than our NL East, where there are four legitimate teams that are still chasing one another, so to speak, and into this Memorial Day holiday coming up in a week. But out west, it's the Arizona Diamondbacks, as you said, Gary. The Mets handling them well, swept them. They've lost four straight, but they're still on top. Barely clinging to that AL West by a half a game. Colorado Rockies threatening them out there.
Yeah, and I think they're tied now, Rich. Both at 25 and 21, unless I'm reading this wrong. San Francisco 23 and 24, but everybody seems to be floundering. The Dodgers, are they making a run? It's 20 at 20 and 26. They've won four in a row. And then San Diego at 20 and 28, and they've won three in a row. So they're 7 games out. The Dodgers are 6. The Dodgers could get back into this thing and be a little sneaky about it. And I don't say anybody is out of it in that division.
No, that's another division. National League pretty well has all the divisions pretty well matched up so far. Whereas over in the American League, it seems like a few of them are a runaway. But it'll be interesting to see as we get into the next phase of the season. For me, obviously, it's going to be from Memorial Day to around July 4th, almost the trade deadline time, All-Star game, that sort of time frame. Very important for all the teams. If there was a most important time for any baseball team, I would think it would be between, say, Memorial Day and July 4th holiday, or around the All-Star break time.
Yeah, and that's when we're really going to see teams start to sort it out and then see what they need to make that big run after the All-Star break and the trade deadline. And uh, it's going to be a fun one this year with all those teams in the Central Division. If they're still in it, there's going to be some competition for players this year.
Yes, there will be. We'll be right there watching the action for you and talking about it on the Baseball Talk radio show. Well, we want to wish everybody a very happy Memorial Day holiday. Gary and I not sure if we're going to do the show over the holiday weekend, but if we do, we'll talk to you next week. And Gary, you have a great week. I'm so glad you had a great game the other night at the Mets versus your Diamondbacks.
Well, thanks, Rich, and you do the same. Have a great holiday in case I don't see you, but I'm sure we'll try to put something together and get it out there. But everybody else have a great holiday. Have a great week.
Yep. And thanks for listening to the Baseball Talk radio show.